Welcome to the Nil-Nil Football Podcast. This is episode 24. Almost to a quarter of 100.
Yeah, almost at 25.
Yes. All right, so we come back after LAFC played over the weekend. They played against the Red Bulls at home. 12 o'clock. Super hot day.
I know, it was really hot.
What did you think of what you did see?
Okay, so I didn't see the whole game. I did see I want to say the first half. I didn't see the second half. But from what I saw in the first half, it didn't look as threatening as I expected it to be. It looked very even in the first half. It wasn't until the second half that you started noticing a difference between the two teams, which
LAFC.
the result which the result pretty much reinforces the whole second half, which is where both goals came. But I didn't think it was bad. I just thought maybe it was a little sluggish.
Yep. I think we started off good in the first 10 minutes. A lot of high press. We were definitely going behind the defenders and stuff like that. But literally after the first 10 minutes, I think there was a couple of fouls, and then that just slowed the game way down. And at that point, it was just like throw in after throw in. Like the ball kept going out of bounds. People kept fouling each other. It's really scrappy for like 10, 15 minutes. So there wasn't really anything much for them to do in the first half. Like at that point, I think both teams were out of rhythm. So, I mean, I want to say Red Bull had more shots on target, but they weren't dangerous whatsoever. All the shots were outside the box and straight at Kripo. LAFC didn't really shoot, so wasn't much going on there.
Kripo didn't have a mistake.
He almost did, but that was in the second half.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about Red Bulls not being dangerous, even though they were having chances in the first half, I actually felt that exactly. Even though they were getting to the goal and getting shots on target, I didn't feel that fear that you normally do when you're playing a team that's in good form, where one of those chances is just going to end up at the back of the net. This time around, I just felt like, oh, they're getting there, but there's just no threat.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that we just got lucky because Red Bulls were having flying issues trying to get to California from New York, as well as their two best players being out with COVID. So, I mean, maybe we just got lucky.
Yeah, probably.
But besides that, the second half was a lot better, especially once we put our subs in. I mean, Red Bulls were probably tired from all the travel complications. And sure enough, you put Chicho in, Chicho scores like 5 seconds later.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I was mentioning to you during the first half, that I just felt that Chicho would have been a better option to put up front to pair up with Brian and Carlos Vela.
Yeah, I think so too, because I haven't really seen Opoku do anything. I think he scored like 3 goals off the bat, and then after that, he hasn't really done anything since.
Exactly, I feel like anytime that he's going to take a shot, he does it always a moment too late.
Yep, and I mean Chicho's always there to save us. I mean, think about the Seattle game last week, the game before this, where I mean, we're basically missing every goal, or we're missing every shot pretty much, and then Chicho comes in with a random header that gets to the goal. I mean, given he probably should have scored 2, but either way, he gets us the goals when we need him.
Right. Exactly, and that's why I was glad to see him come in and make a impact as soon as he stepped on the field.
Yeah. Then I think 2 minutes after that, he's the one. It was a corner kick, a Red Bull corner kick, and then Chicho was the one that cleared the ball toward Brian, and Brian didn't really have to do anything. He just didn't. He tried a move that he hasn't tried before, which is not touching the ball, and that worked.
What?
I know.
He actually tried something different?
Yeah, and they actually got around the player, and luckily he was able to keep the composure enough to set up Chiki, and Chiki
Hmm.
barely. I mean, it was a good finish, but that's his first goal for LAFC.
I had a slight fear when he was going to take that shot that he was taking it an extra touch that did not need to be taken.
Yeah, when I saw it too, I was just like, just shoot it, stop being fancy. But luckily,
Right? Yeah, it's like, okay, you did the cutback. Okay, now shoot. Now shoot. Now shoot. Let it go.
yeah, but that didn't happen. So luckily, he did shoot, and it turned into a goal, and we won. I mean, after that second goal, I mean, Red Bull didn't really pose any threats anymore. I think there was one more shot that they had, but again, it was right at Crepeau, so it wasn't really
Hmm.
that dangerous. Pretty straightforward game, pretty easy. And just it's one of those where we just turn up in the second half and we get the win, right?
Yeah. And luckily they did turn up in the second half. It's still not a convincing performance, for me at least.
Hmm.
I think that they still have a lot of work to do in order to solidify them being a threat. Because right now it just doesn't make sense the way they have been playing and the results that they've been getting, and then still being on top of the table.
Yeah.
So I think they need to. I don't know. They have to kind of like go back in time mentally to the beginning of the season where they were playing that very aggressive style, and taking command of each game.
Yeah, I know. But that pretty much sums up that game. The only other game we did watch was Philly NYCFC.
That was a pretty good game. Philly ended up taking that one 2-1. Uh, Potential penalties towards the end, right?
I think they chose. It was a last minute. NYCFC was arguing for a penalty, but
Hmm.
it's kind of tough. It's more like it bounced up and hit the guy in the hand as he was trying to
Yeah.
clear it, but it wasn't really intentional or anything like that. And I don't
Hmm.
think it's one of those where where you get hit in the hand inside the box, and even though it wasn't intentional, you definitely were blocking like a center or a shot.
Right.
It
Pretty
wasn't.
much like the goal that they did get.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't anything like that. It was pretty much like it was pretty much just like the ball bounced straight up and touched somebody's hand. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's
No.
why I was like,
I mean, in comparison to the one where they ended up getting the goal in this game, that is exactly how you explained it. The guy was sliding, his hand was in the way of where the ball was going to get passed through, and deflected it.
yep,
So that goes to be a penalty.
yep, and crazy last minute goal, so random. Like there's so much
Yeah,
action in that
that I
game.
didn't see. You did see that one.
Yeah, there's so much action in that game. Like right at the end, the most of it
Hmm.
was boring, pretty much.
Yeah, they were very even when it came to being back and forth, and it's not like they were evenly matched in the sense of they were both playing their game well enough that they were canceling each other out. It was more like both teams were kind of turning it over a lot,
Yeah,
and it was just a matter of time before, um, each one got a chance that actually passed the goalie and went to the back of the net.
I mean, capitalize is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Um, but yeah, that last minute goal, I think a guy just took a random shot and deflected on one of the Philadelphia Union players as he was running back.
Hmm.
And luckily it went in the goal, but they marked it offside since he was running back. But when he checked the replay, he was onside. And the player, his teammate right behind him, was the one that was offside. But
Right.
um, I think it was fair to call it a goal, but it was so lucky. It's so lucky. I wouldn't say that Philadelphia played better and deserved to win the
Hmm.
game, but they ended up getting lucky.
Yeah. Uh, that's pretty much all it comes down to in that game.
Yeah.
Any other scores that maybe stood out to you?
I mean, I didn't really watch anything else, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, out of the scores that we do have, I think the only one that I thought was interesting is the Miami Minnesota 2-1, but I feel like we both predicted Miami was going to win on that one.
Yeah.
And then Austin and Dallas drawing at 2-2.
Yeah, I think that one, Dallas was winning 2-0, and Austin was playable to claw their way back to a tie, which is good for us because they come back, or they're going to visit LAFC with a feeling of basically losing 2 points, right?
Right.
Anyway, let's not. I think that's all I have to say. Unless you got something else to say about that match week.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. I want to say a lot of the results were similar to what I was predicting. Maybe not exactly the teams that I was choosing, but the results were very similar. You know, I said that I was being very repetitive by choosing 2-1, and looking at the score sheets, we have quite a bit of those. Montreal, Toronto, Miami, Philadelphia. So a good 4 games that were around a 2-1 scoreline. So
yeah. All right, let's talk about some news.
Okay.
So, LAFC just signed, small player, small attacking player. Yeah.
A little known player.
Yeah, by the name of Danny Trejo. No, I'm joking. Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody in the world now knows
that Chiellini's already here.
Yeah, he's not here yet. That's the problem.
Oh, isn't he getting presented like in a week?
I think tomorrow is what I heard, but that's just rumors.
Okay.
But yeah, no, Gareth Bale decided to sign LAFC, and I think everybody was surprised by that signing, mostly because nobody had any idea that LAFC was going to make another signing, as well as Gareth Bale wasn't really hinting at where he was going anyway.
Yeah, to me, it just caught me by surprise completely.
Yeah.
It's the last transfer I would have expected to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah. When I was checking the feed, normally people already have rumors started before LAFC even announces that they're, making a signing. And the way that LAFC does it is they'll post a box with an LAFC hat, like a shipping box. And when they close the box, it'll say like domestic shipping or international shipping, depending on where the signing's from. So a lot of our MLS signings that we did in the off season to build the current team we have now, a lot of them were domestic signing. But I think it was Thursday when they posted it that it said international shipping, and I was just so confused because I was like, I haven't heard rumors from anywhere. So I went on Twitter, I did some research. Nobody had any idea who the signing is. Everybody had guesses. They're saying El Munir, who used to play in Barcelona, that was going to be our attacking signing, which is, if you compare to them, Gareth Bale, like they're not even close in quality.
No, that's definitely like a huge difference.
Yeah, like nobody had any clue it was Gareth Bale. And to be honest, like ever since Gareth Bale left Real Madrid, like since we knew he was leaving, like honestly, I haven't paid attention to where he was going to go. I just assumed he was going to go like to another European team. Yeah, to the championship or something like that.
Yeah,
just like to play it out while he warms up for the World Cup. But yeah, and then the next day it's leaked because I'm pretty sure a lot of the journalists were trying to get a scoop on this, given that LAFC not to signing and nobody could tell you who it was. And then I think it came out from a journalist named Tom Bogert, who was one of the credible sources in the MLS. He's usually one of the first
to know.
Yeah, to announce stuff. So he came out with the news in the morning that Gareth Bale signed with LAFC, and that's when basically the internet exploded.
Yeah, that golf show must have been really good, huh?
Yep. um, yeah. So when that announcement was made, basically, I check the transfers every day just to make sure, just to see if there's anything big going on. But when that announcement was made, like everybody was talking about it. I think the MLS posted about like 6 posts straight of Gareth
Hmm.
Bale. Um,
Right.
uh, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Like
I feel
we,
like everybody's just confused by that move.
yeah. I could tell you because I've been watching YouTube videos about what they're saying in England and stuff like that, especially Welsh fans too.
Yeah, what
Um,
is everybody's reaction to Gareth Bale moving to LA?
based on
Because
what,
you said that he was originally going to go to Cardiff, right?
yeah, based on what I've seen, a lot of people in Europe don't watch the MLS, so they can't really. They're judging it based on what they think the MLS is versus what it actually is. So a lot of them
Kind
are
of like
like,
how they judge what the country is, saying, "Oh, the U.S. is California, Texas, and New York."
yeah. So pretty much all they're saying is like, oh, the level's not good enough for him. He's gonna wipe the floor with the league. He's gonna go retire. He's just gonna go play golf. He's given up on soccer pretty much.
I feel like everybody's making the whole golf joke, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have a problem with that because when Vela came over,
He wanted to play
he wanted to
basketball.
watch basketball pretty much, and that I mean he broke the scoring record. So if we get something similar to that, I don't have an issue.
Oh yeah, no, no. I
Yeah,
mean, we're getting good quality, even though he, you know, just wasn't on good terms with the team for a long while. I think he still has that elite level play in him.
yeah, I agree too. But yeah, Gareth Bale, he didn't really play much last season. Main
Hmm.
thing, he was heavily rumored with Cardiff, as you mentioned before. Main reason being that was where he was born. That's where he grew up. So that's his hometown
Right.
club. The only issue with that is that the championship is a very aggressive league. They play twice a week a lot of the time. So I think like Tuesdays and
Hmm.
Sundays they play. And for somebody like Bale, you can't play that many games, especially with his injury history.
Right. And
Um,
him wanting to stay fit for the World Cup as well.
yeah, because basically at this point, if he picks up a big injury, it's pretty much he's pretty much out of the World Cup.
Right. And that's what he's trying to avoid.
Yeah, so he was the talks were pretty advanced with Cardiff, and I think as soon as LAFC made an offer, I think it only took about 1 day for him to say yes.
Really, just like that.
Yeah, and everybody was surprised, especially journalists and stuff like that, how fast it was.
Yeah.
Um, Many speculate that the main reason he signed with LAFC, apart from the golf courses, it's just like the level of play isn't as aggressive as the championship is.
Right.
He can take it more easygoing. There's not as much, media over here that would badmouth him or make him feel like, uh, basically just
Unappreciated.
yeah, just attack him nonstop. Because back when he was in Real Madrid, that's all they got from the Spanish media. The same
Right.
thing would
But
happen in
that is,
England.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what the Spanish media is infamous for, is judging the players in the league extremely harsh.
Yeah. And so obviously the MLS isn't like that. We like to, promote our stars. We like to make our stars happy. We like to make them feel special. And
Hmm.
that's why I think we have a lot of people coming over
Opting to
here.
go to the MLS
Yeah,
over other leagues.
even though some people say that the competition isn't as good as other leagues, anything like that, people still choose to come over here for a reason.
Right.
But yeah, many speculate his reason is just he'd be more comfortable over here. You got sunny weather, it's just like Spain. Sunny weather
Hmm.
all year round, beautiful location. You got all the golf courses. He can play as much as he wants.
That's the main part.
He'll be a
And
little.
I'm pretty sure that he's not gonna mind if he just doesn't play like this week, where we had a game on Sunday, and then the teams are gonna play again tomorrow
Yeah,
on Wednesday. I'm sure that he wouldn't mind not being in the squad for one of those games.
Yeah, I don't think he would mind too much either. But it sounds like he is coming to actually play. It's not like he just wants somewhere to train for 6 months. Um,
Right.
the main thing is that I was watching an interview of John Thorrington, who is our president that
Hmm.
basically helps us sign the players and all that. And he's
Right.
saying that um, when he started talks with Bale, he would start it off as in like, "What do you want out of a club?" And
Hmm.
based on what Gareth Bale replied, John Thornton's like, "You basically described LAFC, and we can offer you that. What works for you, we can give that to you." And pretty
Right.
much that's all it took to get Gareth Bale over. And we signed him on a TAM deal. He's not even a DP, so we literally
Hmm.
said we can only offer you 1.6 million. That's as much as we can offer you. And he's like, okay. And he's not doing it for the money because he took like a $30 million pay cut or something like that to come
Yeah.
over here.
I want to say that's probably the part that shocked me the most is that we got him on a non-DP slot.
Hmm.
Because you would imagine for a player of that quality and of that fame that you'd have to fork over some good amount of cash for him.
Well, there's still that possibility. So the way that this deal is structured is that it's a TAM deal. He's a normal player. If we decide to extend them further past the original, I want to say it was
Deadline.
1 year, the original 1 year contract, he'll
Mm-hmm.
become a DP automatically. At that
Mm,
point, we
okay.
would, greatly raise his wages and he'd be getting paid, more like the star that he is, pretty much.
Right.
But, there's a lot of speculation that he's just going to be here for the year and probably end up going, to Cardiff where he was supposed to go until he switches
Mm-hmm.
his mind. Which I don't have a problem with that. Gareth Bale for a year, it's still Gareth Bale, right?
Yeah, it's not a bad deal. And again, just the business side of it, getting him for 1 year for that little, and like you said, him voluntarily being okay to cut his wages down that much and just wanting to play, I think that's probably what's gonna yield the results at the end.
Yeah. And I've been watching interviews by people who used to play with Gareth Bale,
Hmm.
and he's even quiet to his teammates, so not even his teammates would know where he'd be going. But
Well, at least there's no other language that he'd have to learn playing here.
yeah, exactly, because he hasn't learned Spanish at all. But I mean, a lot of the teammates speak Spanish, but it'd probably be easier living in a city where we speak both, right?
Right.
Um, but what a lot of his ex teammates were saying is that he does actually like playing soccer. It's just that
Right.
the media makes him out to be like he cares more about golf. But
Hmm.
what he's explained before is that he's like, why can't I play golf and then play at the same time? People in basketball play golf and then they play the game like right after their golf.
Right. One has nothing to do with the other one. It's
Yeah.
not like it's going to interfere with it. It doesn't make sense why um, they would say, "Oh, that's why you're a bad player because you're focusing on golf."
Yeah, and
It's
John
it's a hobby.
yeah, and John Thornton was quick to shut that down.
Hmm.
When he was giving his interview, he just basically said he's like everybody's judging him about the golf, but you can play golf and play soccer at the same time. There's not an issue. You don't have to play one to not play the other.
Right.
And he seems really happy with the signing. Gareth Bale seems super happy. I mean, he's posted like I think 3 or 4 photos already in
Hmm.
LAFC gear, and he keeps retweeting stories from LAFC saying "Let's go," and he looks so
Yeah.
happy to come over. I just want to see what the day's like when he's actually here, like this first day, because
Right.
I bet it's gonna go crazy around here. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of the English media are as you would expect, judging the move, saying that
Of
he's given up
course.
on his career, stuff like that. A lot of people just don't get why you would go to the MLS. A lot of Welsh people are also, you know, it makes sense that he would be upset because he was going to go to Wales to play because
Right.
Cardiff, but chose to go to LA instead. And a lot of people were like, "Why?" And I think I heard one fan say that they'd rather him go to League One than the MLS because the level is absolutely terrible in the MLS, which clearly that just shows that the guy doesn't watch the league.
Right.
Knock you go.
I mean, it's all about every fan having pride in their league,
Yeah.
and that's understandable. You're always gonna have a much lower view of someone else's league than your own, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no competitiveness to it. Just like the interview that we were watching about the comparison in the Mexican League versus the American League.
Yeah.
And they were saying how it's not competitive. Then there were definite points given showing how it's much more competitive compared to how the Mexican League is now.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kept changing the subject to, well, it's just not that great to watch in comparison, So it makes sense, that there's this sense of pride to it. But I think they should at least give it a try and look at it, because everybody else around the world does look at their league. We all look at Premier League. We all look at the Bundesliga and the Spanish league, and we admire it. We're not saying that it's worse than where we're from just because it's not our league.
Yeah, and I mean, the MLS is shown in a bunch of countries, so obviously there's a market for it. It's just people.
Yeah.
I think people are afraid to admit they like watching soccer instead of football, right?
Exactly. But in the end, it's his decision to make the move, and I feel like his reasoning for it is pretty clear. I don't think that there's any confusing reason that you might wonder, oh, why did he make that move? It's pretty clear and obvious. He wants to stay fit. He doesn't want to get injured, and he's prepping for the World Cup.
And he wants to be happy.
And he wants to be happy most of all. And honestly, I think you get the best out of your player when they are happy.
Well, we proved it with Villa.
Exactly. And on top of that, for now, like you said, it's 12 months. If he enjoys it here, if he likes playing in the league, that might turn into more than 1 year. Who knows? And if he decides to go to Cardiff, perfectly fine. It's his career. He can decide to do with it what he wants.
Yep. A lot of so apart from the British media, a lot of the Mexican media has been going crazy with news of that signing as well. It's basically sparked a lot of debates on whether is MLS getting ahead of Liga MX when it comes to making big signings. I think one guy pointed out the last big signing that Liga MX made was Gignac, and that was years ago.
That really was years ago.
Lately, all the bombazos that they brag about lately have just been players that they buy back who used to be in the league, whether that be Mexicans or foreigners. So, like Cabecito Rodriguez, right? He was a player that LAFC was after. He was with Cruz Azul when Cruz Azul won the title. After they won the title, he left to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or something like that, and pretty much just sat on the bench for 6 months.
Oh, really? He didn't even play?
Yeah. Nope. I think he did. He scored 3 goals or 4 goals, and like 2 of them were penalties or something.
Well, that's quite a paycheck for just sitting around.
Yeah, so I think the club just wanted to get rid of him, and LAFC actually offered to buy him. He rejected us for the second time, and he chose America instead, and that's America's biggest signing of the season, which is buying back a player who sat on the bench who used to be in the Liga MX, 6 months ago.
Right, and that's a completely different news story to a player who was sitting on the bench, or, well, maybe not even in the squad for most of the season. But then again, look at what player it is, what league they were in, and what team they were in.
Yeah, and he won his 5th Champions League doing it.
Exactly. So it's very different to to showboat about that signing in comparison, and then just proceed to call the other league, oh, it's just not that competitive. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, look at the signings lately. I mean, you got Chiellini, you got Gareth Bale, you got Insigne, you got Ache, who
Mm-hmm.
went to Houston. I mean, there's a bunch more that we could talk about. I'm probably missing somebody. Douglas Costa won the Galaxy, right?
Right, exactly.
And then the Liga MX signings are just a couple of guys from South America, some guys that used to be in the league. Nestor Araujo from Celta Vigo, where he wasn't playing that great. Chivas is trying to reinforce themselves with Orbelin, who doesn't want to give up playing in Europe.
Right.
A lot of their signings are basically just old players. They haven't brought anybody new or exciting. There's rumors with DeLuca about Luke De Jong and Cavani, but it just seems like those were just rumors. Nothing's happened from
Okay,
that
Cavani,
whatsoever.
I could maybe see happening,
Yeah.
but not the other one. Here's the thing. I feel like the Mexican teams and league tend to stick to comfort.
Yep.
And that's why they keep going after the same players. The same way that they keep recycling the same
Coaches.
managers and
Yeah.
coaches with each club. You never really see a fresh face when it comes to a coach in Liga MX. And that's why you keep seeing the same faces when it comes to the players as well. The only time you end up seeing exciting new talent is when you see a young player who comes up through the ranks in some youth system, and they're the ones that you're like, oh, that's a new player. Well, they didn't come from any external source. They just came from the country. And unfortunately for them, it's very difficult for them to get sold.
Yep. Because they charge very high prices, and at this point, young South American talent is going straight to MLS instead because they feel like that's their better option than going straight to Europe than going to Liga MX, right?
Oh yeah, look at what LAFC is doing.
What, like sending Diego Rossi to Fenerbahce?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, we didn't sell. What's his name? Edward Atuesta. We didn't sell Edward Atuesta to Europe, but we did send him to basically the biggest team in Brazil at the moment.
Right.
So like, there's
Yeah.
definitely upward momentum to gain from going to the MLS.
Yeah. And what was the other team that normally ends up shipping out talent? Is it FC Dallas?
Yep.
Yeah. So look at that. There's more talent going out from the MLS, in my opinion, than from Liga MX.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when's the last time you heard somebody go to Europe?
What was it? Linus was the last one I remember.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple here or there, but they just sat on the bench, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. The majority of them do end up sitting on the bench.
Yep. And yeah, so basically, all the Mexican TV shows. I mean, Fútbol Picante. You got LOP, the Fox Deportes. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
They're also just saying like MLS is they've passed us at this point. Sure, it's
Mm-hmm.
not as competitive. Liga MX has a better atmosphere for now, but in
Right.
terms of structure, in terms of economy, in terms of stadium quality, in terms of how they treat the players, in terms of the signings that they're making, in terms of exporting players, like all the boxes that you want to tick in terms of creating a league, I think
Right.
USA is already beating Mexico at that point.
Yeah, and I want to say that one of the things that maybe the Mexican League had over the MLS was having that relegation.
Yeah.
And as soon as they eliminated that, for me, I feel like the not the quality, but the intensity of it's a do or die kind of match or a do or die kind of season, it disappeared right away because there's no immediate threat for any of the bottom teams.
Nope. And I think all you have to do is just pay a fine if you finish at the bottom or something like that.
Yeah, and if you can just pay it, what's the point?
Yep. So that's basically all the news surrounding Bale. I'm sure we're going to talk more as he actually visits or actually comes to California and takes a
Hmm.
tour of the stadium and whatnot. And then when he plays his first game, I'm sure the internet's going to go crazy then too. But for now,
Yeah.
that's all of it. We'll talk about the Giorgio Chiellini signing another time when we review all the final transfers made during the summer transfer window. How about that?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
no, that sounds good to me.
on other news, we basically, or actually, Carlos Vela re-signed as a DP. That's the big
Right.
news. So, I think he was, I don't know, was it like a week or 2 days away from his contract ending?
I think it
But
was like it was a couple of days, I think.
yeah, but we pretty much, or it got leaked at the same time as the Gareth Bale thing. So LAFC had to postpone that announcement till today, is when they
Hmm.
officially stated that he resigned. But everybody was already talking about him resigning. Even John Thornton was already saying like, "Oh yeah, he resigned with us," stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um,
Yeah.
so I've been watching Carlos Vela interviews as well as John Thornton talked about it. Marco Garces, who's the director of operations, he talked about it.
Hmm.
That's the guy that we got from Pachuca to run the club.
Oh, right, right. And from the Vela interviews, what have you been able to understand of his mentality? Because I've been curious because I know that his quality isn't the same as it was, on his best season,
Hmm
2019. So what is he thinking now?
So he said some really interesting things. So you would assume he'd want to go back to Europe like ASAP, right?
At least, yeah, that by what you had mentioned to me before, that's what I would
Or but
imagine.
what it seemed like, because I think his wife is Spanish, so probably wanted to go back there or something. But
Right.
from what he said he had three options. So he had gotten contacted by Liga MX teams, and he listened to their
Hmm.
proposals. But in terms of what he wanted, the first was he wanted to stay at LAFC. That was his first option. That's what he wanted the most. He wanted to stay in the
Right.
city. He wanted to renew. He didn't want to leave the team until we won a trophy. Um,
Hmm.
his second option was to go back to Europe. Like he just wants to go back if he can't stay here. So
Right.
if he could not renew here, he would have listened to offers from Europe, and then the third would have been probably like Liga MX or something like that. But he said they weren't
Hmm.
really close to getting him whatsoever, based on the talks they're having.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, when it comes to the Mexican league, they always want their side to be
mm,
like a 70-30 kind of split.
yeah,
They want to make more of the profit in terms of the contract than what the player's going to get out of it.
yep, and from what both John Thornton and Carlos Vela both said was that you would think that Bale would have influenced his decision, but this was basically agreed before that was even announced, or
Hmm.
before anybody knew about that. That they were both working to renew him. It was at this point just a business deal, working out all the little kinks in terms of the money and stuff like that. But
Right.
Carlos Vela and LFC both wanted him to stay, pretty much. So
Mhm.
you had two sides working toward the same goal. It seemed like it was inevitable. It just took a little bit longer than initially thought. But
Right.
he was always wanting to stay here.
That was just plan A from the beginning.
Yep. Like it was never a doubt for him. He just wanted to play for LAFC still.
Hmm.
And I mean, until he wins a trophy, he's gonna stay here.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad to hear that, though.
yeah. And some people asked him, they interviewed him. They're like, "You think the signings make you guys favorites?" And he was like, "Well, we were favorites before the signings even got here. It's like we've been doing a great job. All the players have gotten us into first place. We're already here. What the signing does do is to help solidify our position and make sure that happens at the end of the season. So sure, I'm excited
Exactly.
about that. But we've done our hard work. We've already first place. We're already favorites. Stuff like that. So I
Hmm.
kind of like that. It's not that he doesn't like the signings. It's more like, give us our credit. We did some good work.
Right. Yeah. Because the way that reporters are viewing this and any analyst is viewing this is, well, anything that you've done before is cleaned out because of your new players coming in.
Yeah. But yeah, he seemed really happy about that. He said he loves the city. He feels like home. Having this many Mexicans in one city just, doesn't make him miss home at all. He blends in. It's helpful. Everybody speaks his language, and his family really loves living there, so they don't really have a problem staying for a couple more years.
Oh, that's good. That's really, really good to hear.
Yeah, and then it's it's good because he doesn't really talk about that kind of stuff usually, but he seems real happy to renew. So that's good for us. I don't mind that he's still a DP. As long as he's happy, we've seen that he plays well, right?
Right, yeah. And honestly, like I feel like that should always be the priority is player happiness.
Yeah.
Because like I mentioned, that's when you get the most out of your player. And it's not that happiness where they just feel that they're in complete control of the club. Like they have it hostage. Like, oh, if there's one little thing I don't like, then I'm gone. Well, if that happens, then you're gone and we'll just get someone else. But their happiness will reflect on the field, I think.
Yep. So let's hope he gets a goal in the next match. But I think that was the two biggest news outside of the field that we've seen so far.
Why? Is there news inside of the field?
No, just talking about like the next matches that are happening.
And speaking of next matches, we got matches coming up tomorrow on Wednesday.
All right, Dan, you lead us through those then.
Okay. All right, so we've got a couple of matches Wednesday and Thursday for our next matchup date. And we're going to start off with Cincinnati versus New York City FC. And that was going to be at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. What do you think about this matchup?
I think it's interesting considering that NYCFC just lost to a last-minute winner, right?
Right.
I definitely think they're going to try to bounce back. I'll be interested to know if they can bounce back and play like how they were usually playing, or if maybe there's a little bit more wrong here in terms of how the coach just left to Belgium and they're now, under basically an interim for now, right? So I wonder if they're going to start performing badly, or is this just the coach leaving doesn't really have anything to do with how the team performs as a whole, right?
If you ask me, I would say that it does definitely affect it, and it was very, very evident in the last game, because in a lot of their link-up plays, it just looked like they were confused. A lot of the passes that they were making were not completed passes. A player would just let it pass by, and it would immediately end up in a turnover for a Philadelphia player to pick up. So you can easily tell that there is some confusion on the field as to what they're supposed to be playing like.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we'll see. I think for this match they'll bounce back and defeat Cincinnati, but I mean, anything's possible in this league.
Yeah, I feel that New York, just based on name, would be the obvious choice to go for in this matchup. But I feel like Cincinnati's just kind of been slightly underrated a bit. And they've actually been getting some decent results when they come against some teams that have had some decent form. Like they played Orlando on Friday and they ended up winning that matchup. So I feel that Cincinnati can actually pull out a win. If we look back one weekend before that, they ended up playing against Philadelphia, which was New York's opponent this past weekend. And they ended up drawing that game, Philadelphia and Cincinnati, 1-1. So if I had to just build my prediction based on those two matchups, I'd say that Cincinnati has what it takes to actually get a win over New York.
Yeah, but would you go with it?
I would, yes.
Okay. cheeky ninjas.
Yeah, especially because of what you said, the whole coach leaving, them kind of having slightly of an identity crisis, not having an actual coach to work under. Anyway,
What's
on
your
to the
next
next one. We have Toronto and Columbus at 4:30 as well tomorrow, Wednesday. What do you think of this matchup?
game? Well, didn't Toronto get the win over the weekend?
Yes, Toronto ended up getting the win over Atlanta 2-1, while Columbus, I don't believe. While Columbus did not win nor lose, they drew 0-0 against Salt Lake.
I think Toronto might win this one, especially with
Yeah, I think,
Insigne signing, giving them a mental boost.
yeah. Is he going to be available for this matchup?
Well, he was officially presented over the weekend, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if he's going to be available, but we'll see.
If he is, I would be very interested to see this game.
Yeah, I think they'd still give him like a bit more time to adapt to the city.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you wanted a bit more information on Toronto and Columbus's form, the matchups before this weekend, Toronto ended up losing against Red Bulls 2-0, and Columbus ended up tying against Charlotte 1-1. Uh, for me, yeah, it's very limited information, and it's been quite some time between those two matchups. But based on all that, I would still say that even though Toronto lost to Red Bulls that game, um, I'd say that Red Bulls were at a stronger form in that one compared to the one that we faced. So I'd say Toronto's probably going to be taking a win away from Columbus tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, on to our next matchup. It's going to be Chicago versus Philadelphia, and that game is going to be at 5 p.m. on Wednesday.
All right, Philadelphia. All right, next game. Come on.
Honestly, yeah, there's nothing to go into this. Philadelphia, hands down.
All Chicago has is Gaga, and he's leaving.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is really, really struggling right now. They are at the bottom of the table still, if I am not mistaken.
Okay, at least they have that okay logo. Yeah.
Their baseball logo. Anyway, the next matchup is Seattle versus Montreal. That's also going to be on Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Well, that might be a good one. I think Montreal's decent, isn't it?
Montreal has been a lot more consistent when it comes to their games lately. They ended up getting a win over the weekend over Charlotte 2-1.
Yeah, you're welcome. I told you that was going to happen.
You did. The weekend before that, they ended up losing against Austin 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
And before that was way longer ago because that was the international break. But they had a win over Cincinnati 4-3.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, they've been or less consistent.
How's Seattle's form?
Seattle, well, we tied with them, right?
I remember that, but I won't say, what happened this last weekend?
This weekend, let me see. I believe... Where is their matchup? Oh, here it is. Seattle ended up winning 3-0 against Kansas City.
Okay, well, that's Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't really give you too much information to work with. The weekend before that was against LAFC, and that was a draw, 1-1. Before that, they ended up having a midweek game on the 14th against Vancouver, and they won that one against them 4-0. So that's kind of like the Kansas City matchup, not really giving you too much information. And their furthest away matchup was before the international break, and that was against Charlotte 2-1.
Okay. I want to say I was going to go with Montreal, but I think Seattle's officially back to their season end form, considering we're halfway through the season. You know
Right.
how they start terribly, finish well. So I think they're in the part now where they're finishing well. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like Seattle is going to come away with a win against Montreal.
yeah. All right.
Okay, our next matchup will be held at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday,
Mhm.
and that's going to be between the Galaxy and Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Are you going to go biased or are you going to go analytical on this?
I'm gonna go analytical and say the Galaxy's probably gonna win, considering that Minnesota's at the bottom. But I hope they tie. So I'm gonna go for a tie. I'm
I
biased
mean,
at the end of.
if you really want to be biased, you might as well just go for Minnesota win. But I'm also going to go with a more realistic approach, and I'm going to say Galaxy are going to win this game, probably just by one goal, how they've been doing for most of the season.
Yeah.
Following game, it's going to be at the same time, 7:30. It's another LA game. That's going to be LAFC versus FC Dallas Wednesday.
LFC's gonna win.
No, of course, of course. Dallas ended up drawing over the weekend 2-2, and
Against
as
Austin.
you had mentioned, that draw came from them giving Austin the chance to catch up. So they technically lost the lead rather than finished at a draw.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think LSC is going to win. What is your score prediction?
LAFC 3, FC Dallas 1.
Okay. I had in mind LAFC 3 and Dallas 2.
Oh, you want to make it a banger, huh?
I think it just make it that much more exciting, but I feel like it's a very real possibility for Dallas to score 2 on us.
Yeah, it could happen.
And finally, the last game for Wednesday, it's going to be also at 7:30, and it's going to be between Portland and Houston.
I'm gonna go with Houston on this one.
Okay, and I'm going to go with Portland again on this one. Last time we discussed the matchup between Portland and Colorado. You said Colorado was going to take it away. I chose Portland, and that came out in my favor, 3-0. And I feel like this is going to be much of the same against Houston.
Think Portland's back?
I think Portland is starting to show signs of life again. Yeah.
Whack.
I really do think that they're starting to come back into some sort of form. They ended up drawing against the Galaxy the weekend before that, 1-1. And before the international break, they ended up losing against Miami.
Yeah, I'm still going Houston.
Okay, no. I mean, that's perfectly reasonable. Before the international break, they lost 3-0 against Salt Lake. And last weekend, they ended up also losing against Orlando 2-1. And they won this weekend. So 1 win in 3 games.
I'm sticking with it.
Okay. I'm still thinking Portland's going to win on this one. I believe that they're going to be taking away a win. Now moving on to the 2 final games of this midweek matchups, and it's going to be on Thursday. That's first one's going to be at 4 p.m. between Charlotte and Austin.
Oh, Austin's winning that one for sure. I think just they got too much attacking power, and Charlotte still hasn't quite figured it out yet, considering they also fired their coach.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that.
I should have told you that before the last prediction.
No. You did mention it to me. But I still think it's like way too early for them to fire their coach.
Yeah, it's their first coach ever.
Like, it just doesn't make sense why you would fire your coach. It's not like they were doing terribly.
No.
Let me see. They're 9th place in the Eastern Conference overall.
It's not bad.
Well, that's not bad. That's better than Atlanta, Toronto, Columbus, DC United, and Chicago. Teams that have had pretty decent seasons in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
and this is their first season. So I don't think that the team was doing all that bad. 6 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws. That's not too bad. So I'm a little confused by why they would end up firing their coach just like that. But hey, they're the ones in charge.
Trying to seem like one of those big teams that's like you either succeed or you're fired. You know, one of them.
So they want to be. What team is that? Oh, Manchester United?
No. Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, Everton, that's also a good one. Yeah. And we see how that's been going. They've been doing wonderful.
Well, they haven't been relegated, so it's pretty good.
They were so close. So close. In this matchup, I'm also going to choose Austin. I don't think there's much to discuss on that. As much as I do like Charlotte and I would like to see them winning, Austin, like you mentioned, is just much more powerful this season. And I feel like we might end up seeing somewhat of a goal fest in this matchup.
Really?
Yeah, possibly. Maybe like a 4-1.
Dang. I'm going to go with a 3-0.
Okay. Well, we'll see what it actually ends up being. The final matchup for Thursday, it's going to be at 5 p.m., and that's going to be between the New York Red Bulls versus Atlanta, where Gonzalo Pineda is still struggling to find some sort of consistency with his team.
Yeah, you would think after leaving Seattle, he would have turned Atlanta into like Seattle 2.0, but it just doesn't seem. Maybe since he started off, maybe he's yet to reach his finish the season good part.
Yeah, I mean, there's still quite a bit of season to go. We don't know what the full story is yet, but I think I would agree with you on that whole idea of having seen Atlanta in a much better position, him coming out of Seattle. But then again, we know that that's not always the case. Just look at the Premier League with Man City and Arsenal. You know, Arteta being the assistant to Pep, but Arsenal isn't doing as great as Man City is.
Yeah, they're definitely not winning the league.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And at least for Atlanta United and Gonzalo Pineda, it doesn't look like it's going to be any easier anytime soon. Do you think that the Red Bulls are going to be winning this game with all of their missing players, or do you think that this might end up being more like a draw?
I think Red Bulls are still pretty decent against LAFC, so I'm gonna still give it to the Red Bulls, even if they are missing okay. Aaron Long and Luquinhas. There you go. That's their names.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Red Bulls.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go a bit more skeptical for their prediction, and I'm just gonna say it's gonna end up being a draw. I think that their lower form will affect them, as we saw them playing against LAFC. And I feel like Atlanta could take advantage of that, but just not enough to win the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so that last matchup is going to be a draw for me.
All right. Have you got any other games left?
No, that is the last game that we will have. So again, both of these games are going to be happening on Wednesday the 29th and on Thursday the 30th.
All right, nothing like a midweek match.
Yeah, exactly. And then on Thursday we'll be back with the review of these matches with the preview for the weekend matches.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's basically the end of our episode. I feel like we got into some good talk about the transfers. Hopefully, LFC doesn't make another big transfer, considering we have a DP slot open. So if that doesn't happen, we'll talk about
Mbappe is going to be our next signing. Haven't you heard?
No,
he was at the game.
He's going to buy himself into the contract.
Isn't that how they do it nowadays? You go to the game, you negotiate, a piece of the team, and then you just sub yourself in.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us for now. Make sure to join us in the next episode. So, see y'all later.
See you later.